China turned down Zambia's proposal for a debt restructuring plan, which was agreed earlier in the year, 5 months ago. But as it stands, as of October 2023, China refused to sign this debt restructuring plan. What happened? Why did China throw a tantrum? As you may recall in my earlier video, which you might find here, you understand that China has a huge chunk of Zambia's external debt stock. Today I want us to look at what happened. Why did China refuse to finally put its signature on the debt restructuring deal that we were all excited about, by the way? If you've already subscribed to my channel, a million thank yous to you for subscribing to my channel. If you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing by clicking the subscribe button. It is at the bottom, it is down here. Click subscribe right now. Now, let's get started looking at why did China throw a tantrum on Zambia's debt restructuring plan? Alright, so a quick recap about Zambia's debt stock. Zambia has about 22% of its debt owed by bilateral lenders. These are other countries, majority of whom is China. Then it has about 46% that it owes to private lenders, majority of whom are private investment firms like BlackRock and other big investment firms. The balance is owed by multilateral organizations like the World Bank. Now, a few months ago, 5 months ago in fact, China agreed to a debt restructuring plan for Zambia. Now, in order for us to understand exactly why China threw a tantrum, I want to tell you a little bit about a debt restructuring plan that was created by the IMF and the World Bank, which is referred to as the G20 Common Framework. This G20 Common Framework is a framework that's been designed for low-income countries and guides them in terms of how they make restructuring plans for their debt. So this framework has clear guidelines in terms of how a low-income country should deal with its lenders, such as China and the Eurobond holders that we're going to talk about very soon. And so one of the elements, a very important element that is found in this G20 Common Framework is the comparability of treatment. Okay. So that is one element, which is what China is hanging onto or clinging onto, and which has actually resulted in the Zambia's deal not being officially signed off by China. So you need to understand this G20 Common Framework, which is simply a guideline that helps low-income countries in terms of how they go about, agreeing with countries like Zambia of how they should restructure or settle their external debt. Okay, so having established that, we know that the IMF plays a critical role and the World Bank in terms of creating this structure, right? And so China, being a sovereign nation, because Zambia has got debt owed to China, they were required to take part and basically comply with what is in this G20 framework after much dragging, I must state, right? And so finally, China agreed. I think it was around June, July this year. And I was so excited myself. I don't know about you, because I know the impact on Zambia's economic recovery if China comes on board and actually appends its signature on this debt restructuring plan. So until then, no more celebrations, because, from 5 months ago to now, there's still nothing that has been signed. I'm hopeful that next year things are going to be slightly different. But let me draw your attention to something that happened around the time China refused to sign this debt agreement. So if you've noticed, 5 months ago, the inflation rate for Zambia started consistently going up and up and up. As it stands, December 2023, it's at 12.9%. Okay, so what is the relation here? Well, from my layman understanding, I could only trace it back to this very important debt restructuring deal that needed to be signed at the time. Which is why, if you look at this, 5 months ago, we were all happy. Yeah. And then because China did not append its signature, the inflation was still not coming down. What would have happened is if China had agreed to this debt restructuring plan. Under this proposal, Zambia was going to be given a grace period on its coupon payments for these, bilateral lenders. For the next 3 years, Zambia was not going to pay the coupon interest, and that was going to be a lot of saving in terms of cash flow for Zambia. So as a result of China not appending its signature to this debt restructuring plan, and one condition was that we want to see how you are going to treat the Eurobond holders, these private lenders. Before we sign this deal, show us, Zambia, how you are going to treat these Eurobond holders. Are they also going to comply with, the conditions, the haircut? In fact, it's called a haircut that you are giving us to delay coupon payments for the next 3 years, to probably, restructure the entire debt to, instead of paying this amount, to paying that amount. Are you also going to do the same for the Eurobond holders? So China said, before we can sign, we want you to have a similar agreement with the private lenders, the Eurobond lenders. And if we are happy with that, we will happily append our signature to this deal. And so a proposal was given by Zambia to the Eurobond holders, who, again, after being dragged, eventually agreed to a proposal. I'm pretty sure this was presented to China for review, because remember, China could not append the signature until they knew what was being offered by the Eurobond holders. And so China in October refused to sign the deal that was agreed 5 months ago. The reason they refused is because, according to them, the Eurobond holders are advantaged because the conditions that the Eurobond holders got are better than the debt restructuring conditions that China was given. For example, the Eurobond holders were going to benefit at least by a percentage of about 10% better. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but the whole key point here is the Eurobond holders got a better deal in terms of their debt restructuring, unlike China. Probably maybe the coupon rates were going to be, the same but deferred to maybe a shorter period. I don't know. I'm not sure about the actual content. All I know is China was not happy with the proposal that came from the Eurobond holders. And one issue that is clearly being communicated even through the media like Reuters International is that one of the conditions is concerning the coupon. What China says is these Eurobond holders buy these debts very cheaply because they buy the bonds at a discount. If you are familiar with Zambian government bonds, we buy them at a discount currently until next year, January, which is another video of its own, and I'm working on it, don't you worry. So what China said essentially is that these Eurobond holders buy the Zambian bonds at a discount. This is a cheap, price that these Eurobond holders buy these debts at. Whereas us at China, we give you big loans with very little interest. Why do you want to give them favorable debt restructuring conditions compared to us, who actually even give you, very low interest loans? That is not fair. Now, when I start talking about why we're going to be selling government bonds at a face value instead of a discount, keep this point in mind, because I somehow feel it touches on this too. So that was the question that that China was posing to the Zambian government. These Eurobond holders buy cheap debt from you. Why do you want to give them favorable debt restructuring plans? And overall, the comparability principle found under the G20 Common Framework was not complied with, according to China. Now, this is extremely unfortunate for us, the Zambians, especially us, the common men and women and children who really need this debt restructuring deal signed by China. I think this is why the inflation rate has continued increasing, because if Zambia is able to sign a debt restructuring plan with its bilateral as well as its private lenders, what it means is that we are going to have sufficient cash flow in order for Zambia to invest in its economic recovery plan. We need to see thriving businesses, mining companies, and it's good that we see Mopani and KCM coming on board. And I hope next year production can actually resume, and we won't just be talking about contracts and agreements, but something viable in terms of production, actual production. We can start seeing that output from the mining sector, which is brilliant. And so with all this going on, The IMF extended a 187 million United States dollars to Zambia under a program that they call the Extended Credit Facility. This Extended Credit Facility is financial assistance to low-income countries such as Zambia that are especially going through this debt restructuring plans that the IMF extends to these countries in order to help them with their economic recovery, and particularly with covering their external balance of payment, meaning that this Extended Credit Facility is designed to help countries like Zambia to ensure that they've got enough external, cash flow and foreign currency that they can rely on. Without which, if a country has very low balance of payment, that because they don't have foreign currency, that's where you find depreciation of the Zambian kwacha. If you talk about Zambia, for instance, this is why we see the kwacha depreciating, because our balance of payment is very low. And so with IMF pumping in this 187 million, by the way, it's just an amount out of a total amount which has been given to Zambia of 1.3 billion United States dollars. This is the third remit or remittance that the IMF is giving to Zambia, and it came just this month, just a few days ago, by the way. And it's extremely exciting news because at least it's going to help us a little bit in terms of recovery of the, I hope, depreciating kwacha. You can't be so certain, because the long term in terms of a well-performing currency lies in its homegrown industries, manufacturing and all of that, and we've got quite a way to go in terms of developing these industries. However, this is great news that came through. Now, what is the impact in terms of all these developments? I mean, and all this, mixed performance of Zambia's economy for the past few months, and maybe I could even say for the entire 2023. What all this shows is the significance of the debt restructuring deal. It's extremely important if Zambia is going to start, recovering its economy. And so we just plead with our negotiators, the Ministry of Finance, that are working on this proposal to ensure that they can appeal to China and the private lenders to ensure that they agree to a deal according to this G20 framework that guides, how these debt restructuring deals are supposed to be dealt with. So this is our plea, because the all economic recovery of Zambia really hinges on this deal being signed by both the Eurobond holders and the bilateral lenders. The Eurobond lenders are quite sensitive because this is private money, it's individuals' money, and I really understand, even from my previous video I mentioned the diciness of negotiating with these private lenders. However, we also have to understand that Zambia has got citizens that, like they say, low-income country that really don't even understand majority of what goes on when countries, acquire all these debts. And so we appeal to the consciousness of these lenders. I mean, it sounds so silly, right? Well, I think that's the only thing you can do at the end of the day, so that the common Zambian that is highly impacted by the increasing inflation and increasing prices for goods and services. Look at mealie meal, our staple food, and in Zambia it's commonly said that if you touch the mealie meal, forget everything else. Mealie meal you don't touch. And that is, we've reached that level where everybody's saying mealie meal you don't touch. There's a common there's a musician called P.K. Tishala who's known for a song. I can't remember the exact title of that song, but it talks about a bag of mealie meal and how, please help us at least reduce the prices for this bag of mealie meal. And you know how important mealie meal is if you are a Zambian. And so I end here. I hope this provides you with some insights. I only hope and pray that as in the first quarter of 2024, Zambia is finally going to be able to deal, not to strike a deal, to actually have signatures appended on these debt restructuring plans by both China and these private lenders. Let's hope it's going to happen in 2024, between January to March. For me, that's the least we can have. The earlier, the better, because if we delay this further, the bigger the impact in terms of, how worse things can become in terms of inflation, the kwacha, and all these economic factors that are affecting all of us. This is all I had to share in today's video. Thank you so much for your patience and for listening to me. If you've subscribed to my channel already, a million thank yous to you for subscribing to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. Today could be the day. Consider subscribing to my channel by clicking the subscribe button. It is at the bottom, or rather it is at the top. It is up here. Click subscribe right now. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.